What is your approach to analyzing your own chess games for improvement?
Sometimes it's difficult because if you lose a game, you don't even want to look at it. So there was a period when I wasn't looking at my losses so much. And then I realized that I should probably do that, even if it hurts to look at them. Still, I need to look at what I did wrong. So now I'm usually going over with the computer after the game. I'm sometimes not going super in depth, but at least I have an understanding more or less of where the game was going, what went wrong, what went right, and so on.
You usually know what happened, but I don't check with the engine too much. I'll just, maybe a few moments I'll be curious, but usually you try to find the pattern of mistakes, not just looking at every move so closely with the engine. So you try to find what went wrong in your thought process, because that will prevent the mistake from happening in the future.
So basically, after every single game, every classical game mostly, after I come back into my room, I check it with engines briefly, to see which of the lines that I calculated over the board are correct, which are not. And since there is not much time during the tournament, I usually just spend 15, maybe 20 minutes on it. And then after the tournament is over, I come back to my games and I check them more thoroughly, trying to identify what should I have done better, in general, and some critical mistakes made.
Oh, I also don't really analyze my own games. I'm very lazy. Actually, for a year or two, I wasn't even putting my own games into ChessBase. And so since most of my games are not really in the database to begin with, they just got lost to the void forever. So yeah, normally I just kind of think about it for a bit and then, make some adjustments. If not, I just lose the same way twice. It's pretty common.
Well, normally you should analyze your games, especially if there were things that you didn't understand in the games. Even faster time-controlled games can be useful to learn things, but yeah, it's difficult. Sometimes you don't understand things for a reason. It's quite difficult to understand them, so you have to be, I guess, either really just so into chess that you automatically do it, where you just automatically review your games, or you have to be disciplined and just force yourself to do it. But I do think it's one of the most useful things you can do to improve. Let's say you don't understand some sort of position, just playing multiple games in that position will help you understand over time how you should be approaching that sort of position. So it's tough for me because I don't play much, so I don't have that much experience playing and practicing positions. So some other people play many games, so even if they make mistakes the first time, by the second or third time they'll be a lot more familiar with the positions, and they definitely won't make those same mistakes before. So I kind of have less margin for error with the few number of games that I play.
I normally try to understand if those mistakes that I made in the games were caused by objective chess reasons, or are they opening mistakes, or just psychological. So I try to think how I can improve in that particular field. So that's how I analyze my games. I try to be as maximally as objective as I can be. If I was afraid of my opponent, which I normally am, but sometimes it happens. This is a dangerous tendency and something to work on.
I like to retry whatever mistakes I've made in the game, regardless of what happened in the game, whether I've won, lost, drew. I will always go over my mistakes and I'll try to resolve them over the board, and this helps me in the long run, as I don't make the same mistakes over again.
In order to improve, you need to analyze your games. Try to find out where you went wrong. Try to find out where your weaknesses are, because every chess player has a pattern. The stronger ones are harder to understand, but I think everybody has patterns, just like your personality. So the way that you play, also the way that you choose your openings, and a player learns based on experience. So he tends to play and understand the positions that he has experienced in the past that he understands better. So analyzing them. But Magnus probably much better. than me on understanding his opponents because, for instance, one year he said that Vishiana likes knights, for example, or Hikaru Nakamura is bad at knights, stuff like that. So yeah, I kind of watch his interviews to sometimes get some tips here and there.
I like checking the game without an engine, just trying to understand what I missed during the game without an engine first, and then seeing if my analysis is good enough afterwards.
I try to really figure out the trend of my mistakes as opposed to what the mistakes were. Like, it's usually pretty obvious what the mistakes are now with engines, but figuring out the anatomy of a mistake can be quite tricky, and you have to be really honest with yourself. A lot of times people, for example, they'll make some blunder before time control, and they'll say that I blundered this because I missed this thing, and that's just not true. You blundered it because you burned too much time on move 15. So really trying to figure out the anatomy of the mistakes is important, and I do my best at that, and I try to see trends, what kind of positions I'm playing well, what kinds I'm not playing as well, stuff like that.
Well, usually I try to find mistakes and fix them. Of course, that's the general idea, but it's not so easy because sometimes when you reach certain level, then it's very minor things, and also it's tricky because you tend to justify yourselves many times. So it's in a way it's hard to be 100% objective, and I think it's one of the obstacles of making progress in that sense. But I do try to find shortcomings and things that I do wrong, not only completely chess-wise, but also sometimes you just have the wrong routine, or you're just doing something wrong psychologically or mentally, and always you have to be really tough with yourself and as objective as possible and try to identify those mistakes.